This is week 5. This is No Hedge. We are back for another episode. As always, I'm your host, Collin. With me is my co-host, Bogdan. And the two of us had a little bit of a different week from the week 4 slate. I came in and had a very solid week, again, following up my week 3 performance with a very good record. I came in at 4-1 last week, which put me up about 2.5 units. And on the season, that gets me to 14-8-1 with a plus 6.5 unit record. And Bogdan, last week, a little bit of a tough break for you. You ended up going 2-3 on your picks. Bog was down 1 unit on the week, and that ended up getting him to 10-8 on the season. But again, had a couple good weeks the weeks prior. So you're sitting at plus 4 units on the year. So you got to be feeling pretty good coming into week 5 here.
Yeah, week was good. Could have been even better if the Giants pulled through. Same with the Bengals, but I feel like they're both in the same spot right now. They're both 1-3, right? Can't get offense going to save their lives. So, that's something to monitor. But we'll see. But let's start off with week 5.
Yeah, no, for sure. And as always, we do want to give you a very quick recap of our picks from the following week. So I'll run that down for you really quick here. My first pick that hit was Lions money line over Green Bay. I said last week they had the better offense, better defense. Don't overthink it. That was a no sweat bet. They handled that game. Bogdan's first picks was Jags -3 for the London game, and they handled Atlanta in that spot. That was another blowout, no sweat bet. So that was a really nice start to the week for him. And then our first joint pick was the Vikings -3 against Carolina. This one started off a little bit sketchier, but luck variance was not on our side, and we knew that the Vikes were the better team, and that ended up playing out by the end of the game because the 99-yard pick six against Kirk Cousins and then a fluky pick was still not enough for the Panthers to surge past the Vikings in this spot. So they won by 8. We got the cover there. Another one of my picks was Buffalo -3. I told you guys last week, everybody was in the honeymoon phase with Miami after that 70-20 win over the Broncos, but this was a great spot for the Bills. They had the better defense, better well-rounded roster, so they were able to get the job done at home. Another no sweat bet in that spot. Bogdan, now this was one of your first tough picks of the week, was a Bengals -2.5 against Tennessee. And like you mentioned when we first started the show, yeah, the Bengals are just not looking great right now. So obviously the ankle injury with Joe Burrow and their offensive line play, they are just not able to do anything. So that was a tough pick for you. Then another one of my solo picks was the Rams money line in Indy. And although that game got a little bit sketchy at the end there and Anthony Richardson led that team back, they got a couple key stops. Like I said, Stafford was going to have ease throwing the ball on that Indianapolis secondary, and that's exactly what happened in overtime where he surged them right down the field to get them the win. So that was a good bet as well. And then our worst loss of the week was our joint pick on the Chiefs -9.5 against the Jets. They came out, looked great. I believe the score was 17-3 early. And then just like that, Mahomes had a couple of bad turnovers that just got that game back into the hands of the Jets. They were able to claw their way back into it. And even though they got the win, that scumbag Mahomes, he could have ran in the end zone. He decided to slide and play responsible. Yeah, well, when my money's on the line, I don't want you to play responsible. That was a scumbag move. You could have covered for all of Kansas City, and you didn't. So Kansas City lost us in that spot. That was my only 2-unit play of the week. So obviously that was a dagger because I was up 4.5 units before that game, but it's whatever. We just got to keep on moving. And then Bogdan's last pick, the wall of shame, still stands as the G-men. Again, this offensive line looks abysmal. They just got absolutely routed by Seattle's defense last night. And even though we were in that game and we had a chance at the goal line, Danny Dimes was looking like Danny Pennies. I mean, he made a horrible decision, went for a check down pass in front of the end zone. There's just no excuse there. So that wraps up the week 4 picks. We're going to jump right into our week 5 slate here and our picks for the upcoming week. And to start off the week here, we're going to be going with one of our joint picks. This is going to be the Buffalo Bills going actually out to London. The Jags are staying in London for the second London game of the year. This game opened up at +3.5 in the Jags' favor. It has since moved to +5.5. And although that there's a little bit of line movement there, the Bills are getting 85% of the bets, but 73% of the money. So despite the heavy money being on the Bills in this spot, they are actually seeing a little bit of the sharp money swing into the Jags. So Boggs, start us off for our joint pick. Why are we taking the Bills at -5.5 in this spot?
Yeah, Bills look good, man. I mean, they just handled Miami easily. Jacksonville, I know they're a London team. They played great last week. However, the Falcons' offense sucks. I mean, Desmond Ridder just looks atrocious. Maybe he can bounce back this week. We'll see. But overall, Bills are the better team. They're way better defensively. They're more high-powered offensively. -5.5. I mean, yeah, they can probably handle them by 10 plus, I think. So I don't think this is a spot where you overthink it. Just take the better team.
Yeah, and we say that on a week-to-week basis when, especially you're below a touchdown, if you think the team is capable of winning by 2 to 3, then why are you even going to sweat it? I'm not really going to harp on this bet too much more. You pretty much summed up everything there. This Bills team is firing on all cylinders right now. Their defense is averaging, I think, about 10 points conceded a game, while their offense is putting up almost 40 points. Look, Josh Allen's a better quarterback out of the two. I know T-Law, he's looked pretty good, especially after last season. But again, this is a no sweat bet, in my head at least. Take the Bills in this spot, even though they're going to London, where it is, as we've seen, the London Jaguars, they love to play well over there. Yeah, this is one of those where this is the better team. Why get all caught up in the semantics behind it? Take the Bills, -5.5. We're feeling really good about that. And that's actually going to be one of my first 2-unit plays of the week. I actually have a couple more 2-unit plays coming up on the show. So I am liking this slate again after a couple weeks of doing well here. And we'll move on to one of your solo picks, Bog. This is the Pats at home playing the Saints. This game opened up at +2.5. It has since come down to +1.5 in the Saints' favor. And the line movement is backed up by the sharp money, as the Patriots are giving 42% of the bets and 70% of the money. So, Bog, again, give us your analysis for this pick and why you like the Patriots to bounce back after a disgusting blowout.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was like you said, disgusting blowout. I mean, they got embarrassed by Dallas. Bailey Zapp came in. It's bad when your backup comes in. But these are two very similar rosters, right? They both have a really good defense, and both offenses are kind of struggling right now to find their way. However, out of the two offenses, I'd rather have Mac Jones than Derek Carr. I think Derek Carr is abysmal. I know you like him a little bit. I think he sucks at playing quarterback. I know he can throw the ball. He just makes these boneheaded plays all the time. So if I had to choose between an offense I want to ride with this week, I'm taking the Pats. And like you said, coming off that embarrassing loss, they got some urgency. You want to win. You want to prove to your fan base and your team that you can win games. Coming off after that, so I'm taking the Pats here flat out money line. I just think they're better.
Yeah, no, and I definitely see where you're coming from with this pick. I was actually very close to tailing you on this pick before the show, as you would know, with some of our discussions before the episode, but I essentially just got skewed away from it because the Saints defense is looking pretty decent this year. So I'm just not too comfortable backing Mac Jones in this spot. But again, I think the Patriots have had the tougher schedule up until this point. And in the NFL, especially after a blowout, you can always look to find some value on a team bouncing back in the following week. So I definitely see where you're coming from and why you're taking the Pats at the money line in this position. Not even sweating the plus points. You're just taking them outright. I like that decision for sure. And moving on to one of my personal picks, this is the Houston Texans going on the road to play the Falcons. This game opened up at +3.5 in the Texans' favor. It is now sitting at +2, and the sharp money is looking not too crazy in this game, but the heavier money is sitting on the Texans, as they're getting 69% of the bets and 65% of the money. Now, even though they're getting points in this situation, similar to your pick with the Pats, I'm throwing away the points. I am taking the Texans money line in this game. And again, I'm going to try something new this week. I can ramble a little bit. I want to keep this short and concise. Overall, the Texans are just a better team right now. The Falcons offense is very one-dimensional. Desmond Ridder is really not special. I would say he's one of the bottom quarterbacks in the league right now. I don't like anything I've seen from him. Yes, Bijan Robinson is really talented, but he's pretty much the only redeeming quality on that Atlanta offense. And then you go look at the Texans. CJ Stroud is surprisingly, I didn't see this coming, but he's a real deal. He's one of the top performing quarterbacks in the league right now. Their offense is making plays. They're stepping up for this kid, and their defense is doing what they have to do to keep them in games and win handily in some spots. So I just think the Texans are the flat out better team here. I don't even see the need to take them with the points. So I'm laying the Texans at the money line. Bog, what do you think about my pick here?
Yeah, and I originally, I was all over the Texans to start. Now I do have CJ Stroud in fantasy, so that was kind of maybe an emotional thing. But I'm not touching this game just because, same deal like Falcons. They just got humiliated in London. Desmond Ridder had a horrible game. I mean, his teammates didn't want to even shake hands with him after that one play. Matt Collins just looked at him like, get out of my face, dude. That was horrible. So, you're back in Atlanta. You want to prove to your fan base that you are, the quarterback for now. You want to come back. You want to bounce back in some way. Atlanta, they can start to get the rush going, try to take some pressure off him. Now, Houston probably is the better team. I just don't like that it's in Atlanta, and I just talk myself out of it. But I can totally see the Texans clearing them easily.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, if Desmond Ridder proves me wrong in this spot, then I'll have to give you a lot of props because I am really confident on the Texans in this game. This is my second 2-unit play of the week on the Texans money line, especially with the money line sitting at plus odds. Especially with a 2-unit play, I think this is going to be not only a safe bet, but it's going to be a free winner for some big money. So I'm backing the Texans. Moving on to another one of our joint picks. This is, I believe, the last game at the 1 o'clock slate. We've got the Carolina Panthers going on the road to play the Lions. This game opened up at +5 in the Panthers' favor. It has since quickly shifted to +9. Obviously, a lot of people are liking the hype around the Lions and liking the nonsense going on in Carolina. And the sharp money backs that up. Even though there isn't too much of a discrepancy between the bet percentage and the money percentage, you'll see that the heavy money is still on the Lions in this spot. They're getting 87% of the bets and 86% of the money. So again, Bog, start us off for our joint pick here. Why are we backing the Lions at such a long spread at -9?
Yeah, plain and simple. You got one of the best teams in football playing probably one of the worst, if not the worst. I mean, the Panthers are just struggling on all levels. Now, their defense is underrated. I'll give them that. But Bryce Young just hasn't looked the part. He's uncomfortable in the pocket. He looks nervous. His timing's off. Lions, you have one of the best defenses in football, one of the best offenses in football. They're going to handle the Panthers easily. I expect them to win by more than 10. So getting them at 9.5, I think it's solid.
Yeah, and if we compare this Lions team to the Vikings team that just played the Panthers this past week, which again was another one of our picks, the Vikings again got a lot of unlucky luck variance going against them with a 99-yard pick six and then another fluky interception that, Kirk was getting hit in the backfield. Ball got tipped up. Really weird. The Vikings could have easily won that game by multiple scores. And I think the Lions, you compare them to the Vikings, I think they're the better team offensively and defensively. So again, I'm not going to hit home all the same points you just made. With Bryce Young, he is really struggling this year. And you even have the Panthers coming out and saying they're looking to bring in a receiver to try and help him out. I don't even think an extra receiver coming into this offense is going to help him. He does not look calm back there. He's getting mauled in the backfield, constantly running for his life, getting sacked. The Lions are the much better team. Like you said, top defense, top offense. Even though it's a long spread, lay the number on the Lions in this position, and you won't be disappointed when you get a free winner by the end of the day. And again, this is going to be another 2-unit play for me. Fortunately, the last of my 2-unit plays. So that all my hammers are out of the way. But again, this is another game where it's like, this is too easy. Don't overthink it. No sweat. Take the Lions. Now, moving on, we got one of your solo picks, Bog. And this one is a little sketchy, but I like this. This is a very sharp play from your angle. And this is going to be the Kansas City Chiefs going on the road into Minnesota to play the Vikings. This game opened up at -4 in the Chiefs' favor and has since come up to -5.5. And despite that line movement, like I said, this is a little bit of a sharp play for you, Bog. The Chiefs are getting 81% of the bets, but only 52% of the money. So the Sharps are seeing some value on the Vikings in this spot. Tell us why you're taking a risky pick, fading the public favorite in the Chiefs and taking the Vikings +5.5.
Yeah, plain and simple. I like to torture myself on Sundays. I like to pick loser teams like the Giants, the Bengals. I'm going with the Vikings this week, but I'm taking it at 5.5. Right, they're playing a Chiefs team that's, they struggled a little bit against the Jets. Maybe they want to look to bounce back. However, Minnesota got their first win. They sit at 1-3. They still got playmakers on offense. Brian Flores, I think he's doing a good job with the defense that he has. So the game is in Minnesota. I can picture this being maybe a shootout. So, definitely a risky pick here. But I just like the Vikings for some reason. I don't know.
And this was one of the games that jumped off to me initially. But again, In this spot with this spread, I could still see an outcome where the Chiefs are winning by 1 or 2 scores. But again, I do think the Chiefs are a little overrated this year. This offense is outside of that Bears game. They're really not operating that high of a level. Obviously, last game they started off really hot, and then Mahomes had 2 really freak turnovers that were very uncharacteristic for him. But even despite that, they barely beat the Jags. Obviously, like I said with this last game, barely beat the Jets. I just don't think that this Chiefs team is really operating at the levels that we're used to seeing them operate at in the past. So even though I'm not personally backing the Vikings at plus 5.5 in this spot with you, I definitely see where you're coming from. It's a sharp play. I respect the hell out of you for it. So let's hope that they pull through for you in that position. And moving on to another one of my personal picks, we've got the Bengals going on the road into Arizona to play the Cardinals. This game opened up at minus 7.5 for the Bengals. And again, with what we've seen recently, that spread has quickly shot down. The Bengals are only laying -3 now. And the Sharps are backing up the Cardinals in this position. They're getting 42% of the bets and 69% of the money. And that's exactly why I'm taking the Cardinals here. Not at the money line with some of my other underdog picks so far through this slate. I will usually lean for the money line when it's anything under 2.5, because at that point, if I'm not getting the field goal, I would just like to take a stab at the extra money. But since the Cardinals are getting +3 still on this spread, I'm going to back them in this situation. Look, the Bengals, of years past, they looked great with Joe Burrow. Now, this offensive line is shaky. His ankle is still clearly causing him to play at a much lesser level from where he's used to. Jamar Chase is getting pissed. He's not getting the ball. And then on the flip side of things, you got the Cardinals defense that's actually hanging in games with some of the more talented opponents in the NFC, with the Cowboys and the Niners, at least hanging in that game. I know they ended up getting blown out on the spread, but they at least hung in it. And the Cardinals offense, Josh Dobbs is operating at a more efficient level right now than Joe Burrow. Their run offense, that offensive line is generating great holes for James Conner in the backfield. They're running like madmen. I think this is a game where it's a no sweat. Why am I overthinking this one? The Bengals look horrible. The Cardinals are hanging in a lot of these games. I'm just backing the Cardinals in this spot, and I don't think that's too crazy of a pick. What would you have to say about that?
Yeah, not at all. I mean, Arizona's playing great. You know, they played tough with Washington. They played tough with the Giants. They beat the Cowboys by 2 scores. They hung in there with the 49ers. I don't see a reason why not take the Cardinals right now. I mean, the Bengals offense looks worse than the Giants, which is hard to believe. Bengals, they look like the favorites on paper. Like, they probably do have the better roster, but right now they're not playing like it. So, I have no confidence in taking the Bengals.
Yeah, exactly. Couldn't have summed it up any better. So I'm fading the Bengals. I'm going to keep that fade train going. Kind of a similar trend with what we've seen with our picks going against the Panthers. Now, I hadn't been fading the Bengals, but again, I just think this is a good spot to do so. With what we've seen from the Cardinals, they are actually hanging in games and surprising people with what they thought of this Cardinals team from the offseason coming into the season. So seeing what they've been able to do, I'll take them in a field goal. If the Bengals are able to get 2 wins on the year, I could see that very well happening by a field goal late winner. So get me in for the Cardinals at +3 in that spot. And moving on to the last game of our slate, this is my last personal pick of the week. This is the Philadelphia Eagles going on the road into LA to play the Rams. This game opened up at -6.5 and has since come down to -4.5 in the Eagles' favor. And despite that line movement, the Eagles are actually getting the sharp money here. They're getting 55% of the bets and 67% of the money. But I don't give a damn, okay? Even though this might be a little bit of an NFC East divisional bias here, I just really haven't been too impressed with the Eagles this season. They have been sticking in a lot of these games by 1 score, and especially with what we saw last week with Sam Howell actually being able to put up some decent numbers. Now, I know Brian Robinson really was the front runner for Washington's offense last week, but even just being able to see Howell make some good throws and whatnot, I think that this Eagles secondary is really going to struggle against Matt Stafford in the spot. I don't think they're necessarily going to lose this game. I absolutely see the value in backing Jalen Hurts. The guy behind that, obviously one of the best offensive lines in the league. Jalen Hurts is making good throws. He is definitely a great quarterback. He gets some hate from some people that don't want to give him as much credit as he deserves. He is a great quarterback. So even when their defense is letting them down and the Eagles are having to stick in games with teams that you would normally think that they'd blow out, he's still able to get it done and get scores late in the game. So All that being said, I definitely think I see some value on the Rams in this spot. The Eagles secondary is actually ranked 27th in the league right now. They have an outstanding D-line, which we preface coming into this season, whether that Georgia D-line and all those young bucks coming in, we're going to be able to perform. So far they have, but that secondary has really struggled. And when you're going up against a pass-heavy team like the Rams, and like I said last week with why I took the Rams against the Colts, I think Stafford's going to have a lot of success throwing on the Eagles secondary in this position. And that's why I just think that they're going to be able to keep it close. Bogdan, what do you think about me? Again, you had your sharp pick earlier in the show. I think this is one of mine. What do you think about me taking the Rams in this spot?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind it. You might sweat a little bit, but, you look at the way this matchup is. Like you said, the Rams love to pass the ball. Eagles secondary looks shaky. Now, Eagles offense, they can put up points, right? I know a lot of, players and, a lot of fans question the offensive coordinator's play calling. Why not stick with the run in the last game? So they can run the ball very well. They can throw it very well also. Now, their defense, I mean, outside that D-line, their linebackers are probably the oldest unit in football. Their cornerbacks are pretty old. They just don't have speed on the second level of their defense. So, if the Rams can get into a shooting match with the Eagles, into like a high-scoring game, that can go either way. That can work in your favor. This is just, we'll see.
Yeah, we will see. Because, again, this is a game where the Eagles could come out and win by like 10, 7 points. I definitely see the risk there. But one thing I even forgot to mention in my analysis is that this Rams defense is very slept on. They are one of the top 10 units in the league right now. Nobody's talking about that. Like I said last week, Aaron Donald is playing really well, hoping he's going to be able to generate some pressure on Jalen Hurts this week, which obviously Jalen Hurts has had a lot of time and a lack of pressure so far. So hopefully this Rams defense is able to come in and shake up this offensive efficiency just a little bit, because I don't think that the Eagles offense, although they're putting up points, they aren't operating at the level that they were used to from last season when they ended up going to the Super Bowl to play the Chiefs. So I'm going to take a little bit of a risk in this spot. Again, this is a one-unit play. This isn't one of my, big confidence picks, but just with how much Stafford loves to throw the ball, with Cooper Kupp coming back this week, I think that this could be a great spot for the Rams to shock this Eagles team, maybe even hand them their first loss on the year. So I see some value at taking the Rams at plus 4.5 in this position. But that's going to wrap it up here for No Hedge for our Week 5 slate and our Week 5 picks. And I've said it in past episodes, but we really need it now. We're starting to see a pretty good uptick in views, and coming off a hell of a week like we had in Week 3, we are expected to get some even better viewership going into Week 4 for our Week 4 picks. I know you had a little bit of a down week coming in at -1 unit on the week, but again, when you're only missing your picks by one, it's not really a down week, especially because you're already up on the year. Bog sitting at +4 units even after this supposed down week. And again, I had another red hot week. So I'm kindly asking you, if you've been following along with this show and you've been winning some money with us as we are both up on the season so far, please start sharing the show with your friends. We're not a bunch of squares. We're not a bunch of average Joes. We know what the hell we're talking about. We're winning money, and our worst weeks so far have only come at the expense of about 1 unit on the week. So we're doing really well. Please show us some love. Give us a like. Give us a comment. Tell us what you think about our picks. Give us a sub if you're liking the picks and you are tailing and winning money so far. And as always, we will see you next week for Week 6 here at No Hedge. And thank you for watching.